What's up, everyone? My name is Jack Murphy, and this video is kind of like the sequel to the first video on my channel that ever did pretty good in terms of views, where I went over my $500 dividend portfolio and talked about how much I received in dividends from that. Well, now we recently hit $5,000 in the same portfolio, so I thought it would be cool to do kind of a sequel, part 2 to that video. So let's get right into my portfolio. So the first position is Apple. Currently I have about 1.45 shares. The market value is about $284.24. Apple actually has the lowest yield in my portfolio at a 0.49%, basically 0.5%. And the 5-year growth rate is about 6.15%, which is all right. Their dividend history is 10 years. That's fine. Apple's not really a dividend company. They just do happen to have a dividend. And I get about $1.39 a year in dividends from Apple. Now, Apple is not really a dividend company. This one is a little bit more about growth. That just also happens to have dividends, so that's why it's in this portfolio. And yeah, that's my lowest yield and lowest income from any position. The next position is AbbVie, where I have 1.03 shares. The market value is about $154.55. The yield is about 4.19%. The 5-year growth rate is about 10.52%. They also have about 10 years of dividend growth, and I get about $6.39 a year in dividends from AbbVie. The next position is Intel, where I got about 4.68 shares, and the market value is about $200.57. Their dividend yield is about 1.19%, and the 5-year growth rate is about negative 9.22%, and that's because recently Intel had a pretty major dividend cut that was not too great for all the dividend investors. So there's a chance I actually sell this because I'm up over 40% on this position, and the dividends are not as strong as I thought when I bought the position. Right now I get about $2.34 a year in dividends from this company. So it is still giving me some income, but that was chopped up a bit recently. So the position might not be worth holding in this portfolio for much longer. I'm still deciding on that, but we'll see. My next position is Johnson & Johnson, where I have about 1.62 shares. The market value of my position is about $250.35. Their dividend yield is about 3.06%. The growth rate is about 5.83%, and they have about 61 years of dividend growth, which makes them a dividend king. Dividend kings are companies that have over 50 years of dividend growth and are consistently paying out dividends for over 50 years. So when you're a dividend investor, this is probably one of the best things you can see, because it means the company is most likely always going to be paying their dividends, and they're probably going to be increasing those dividends every single year. Dividend kings are kind of like your best friend as a dividend investor. My Johnson & Johnson position pays me about $7.71. The next position is JP Morgan, where I have about 1.14 shares, and the market value is about $180 on the dot. The yield is about 2.68%, and the 5-year growth rate is about 10.31%. I have about 9 years of dividend growth, and this position pays me $4.79. After that is my lowest position, where I have about 0.97 shares. I might just throw a couple bucks in to round that up to 1 share, but right now, the market value is about $203.05. Their yield is about 2.11%, and they have a great 5-year growth rate of 19.29%. We love seeing these high 5-year growth rates because that means the company is increasing their dividend payments, and over the long run, your income will increase more and more the longer you hold these positions. That's just a pretty good thing to see as a dividend investor. Lowe's also has 60 years of dividend growth. Once again, another dividend king. And this position pays me about $4.27 a year. My next position is Main Street Capital, a monthly dividend payer, where I have about 5.01 shares. The market value is about $211.26, and their dividend yield is about 6.74%. They have a dividend growth rate of 3.65% and 2 years of dividend growth, and my position of Main Street Capital currently will get me about $14.43 a year. The next company in my portfolio is 3M, where I have about 1.84 shares. The market value is about $189.78, and their dividend yield is about 5.81%. Their growth rate is only 1.98%, but they have 65 years of dividend growth, so that makes them a dividend king, which makes me confident in their long-term ability to pay dividends. But I will say this is one of the iffier positions in my portfolio, and I think it is the one I'm down the most on. But this position currently can bring me about $11.04 a year in dividends. The next position is MO, Altria Group, where I have about 5.79 shares. The market value is about $239.35. The dividend yield is 9.49%, which is pretty high. They have a 5.85% 5-year growth rate. Their dividend history is 53 years, also making them a dividend king. And my current position brings in about $22.69 a year in dividends. The next position in my portfolio is another monthly payer, Realty Income, ticker symbol O. I have about 8.72 shares of Realty Income, making it my second largest position in this portfolio at $469.60. And they have a good dividend yield of 5.62% with a 3.67 5-year growth rate. They have 25 years of dividend growth, making them dividend aristocrats, which is basically the little brother of dividend kings. Also a very good thing to see as a dividend investor. And my current position of Realty Income brings in about $26.77 a year. My next position is Pepsi, where I have about 1.36 shares. The market value is $224.63. The yield is about 3.02%, and the 5-year dividend growth is 6.63%. They have 51 years of dividend growth, making them a dividend king, and I get about $6.88 for my position currently of Pepsi. I also have Procter & Gamble, where I have 1.15 shares. The market value is about $166.43, and their dividend yield is about 2.57%. They have a 5-year growth rate of 5.63% and 67 years of dividend growth, making them also a dividend king. My current position gets me about $4.32 of dividends a year. My next position is Starbucks, where I have about 2.83 shares. The market value is about $273.07, and they have a 2.36% dividend yield. The 5-year growth rate is 10.35%, which is pretty good, and they have 13 years of dividend growth. My current position gets me about $6.45 a year. Then I have Target, where I have about 3.05 shares. The market value is about $278.18, and their dividend yield is about 3.25%. The 5-year dividend growth rate is 11.59%, also very good, and they have about 55 years of dividend growth, which makes them a dividend king. And my current position gets me about $9.02. My next position is the newest one in this portfolio, Texas Roadhouse, where I have 2 shares. The market value is about $226.47, and the yield is about 1.92%. The 5-year dividend growth history is 17.08%. Very good, and they only have 1 year of dividend growth history. I get about $4.40 from my current position of Texas Roadhouse. The next position is UGI, which I have 7 shares of, and the current market value is about $158.87. The yield is about 6.57%, and the 5-year growth rate is about 7.8%. They have 35 years of dividend growth, making them dividend aristocrats, and my current position gets me about $10.57 a year in dividends. The next position is Verizon, which I have about 7.42 shares of, and the current market value is $283.24. Their dividend yield is about 6.88%, and they have a 5-year growth rate of 2.02%. They have 19 years of dividend growth, almost a dividend aristocrat, and my current position yields me about $19.74 a year. Now, those are all my stocks, and I have 2 ETFs. So the first ETF is JEPI. JEPI I have about 6 shares of, and the current market value is about $326.19, my third largest position. The dividend yield is about 8.74%, which is pretty high. They do not have a 5-year growth rate because the JEPI ETF is younger than 5 years. They have 2 years of dividend growth history, and my current position yields me about $28.56. And the last position, everybody's favorite dividend ETF, SCHD. I currently have 10 shares of SCHD in this portfolio, and the market value is $724.50. The yield is about 3.67%, and the 5-year growth rate is about 13.05%. I have about 12 years of dividend growth, and my current position pays me about $26.60 a year. All right, so that was all the stock positions in my portfolio. So what is the total? Well, in my $5,000 portfolio, I'm making about $218.29 in dividends. I think that is pretty cool. We are over $200. That was a cool milestone for me. And this portfolio yields about 4.3%, which I would say is a little on the high end. Most people could expect to average around the 3.5%, I would say. I would usually aim for that 3 to 4%. I'm a little high right now, but I think as my portfolio turns into like 10,000, maybe 50,000, 100,000 years and years and years down the line, the average yield is going to lower, but that is fine. So yeah, right now I'm getting about $218 a year from this portfolio if I were to not add any more money to it. So yeah, that is my $5,000 portfolio. That's how much I get in dividends. Here, check out the original video here, or just check out a playlist of other videos on my channel. But besides that, thank you guys for watching. Peace.